just as as Paul and myself cobbled together the introduction, so I'm actually here at the BCS in London today. The room next to me has roughly about the same amount of people, about 25 people at the moment here in the new shiny BCS offices, where we're actually in London Wall, and we have a piece of London Wall to the right hand side of me. So this is our first hybrid event. So we're running both live stream and also physical event. The physical event stuff will be available on the BCS YouTube. So if you're wanting to dip into that, there's 2 separate streams, but all these sessions will be recorded and be made available anyway. So if we go on to the next slide, Paul. Do you want to talk through this because of your years in the BCS 20 years ago?
Okay, I'm out of touch with the BCS, I have to say. But yeah, the BCS exists for its membership, and the membership is right across the whole of IT. Includes quite a few business people as well, because business obviously have a big interest in IT and what the BCS are doing. Of course, it's a membership organisation. It oversees the qualifications and training that's offered through things like the ISTQB scheme for testers in particular, but quite a few other areas, project management, business analysis, that kind of thing. It's got obviously a connection with government because it's a kind of a recognised institution within the engineering profession in the UK. It's legislated by the British government ultimately as a charity. It oversees the, if you like, promotion of professional development kind of schemes, including apprenticeships, certification, and what's kind of emerging as digital skills, which essentially are the basic software tool usage kind of skills. That's about as much as I can say. What's turned out is we couldn't co-host these slides with Adam, who's actually giving this live to the group in the room. So this was dropped on me about 3 minutes ago. Where's Jonathan gone? Okay. The BCS it's an open service to any member of the software community. And I've lost the screen. Its notional purpose is to promote better practice within the software community as a whole, and obviously we're focusing on testing today. The general idea is it's inclusive. All people who are active in the industry, in principle, the BCS is there to support you, and it's also there to support your ongoing professional development through the training professionals that they identify and can promote, through the certification schemes and through other qualifications, if you like, not so much in testing, but in other areas of the software industry. Trend setting, they would say this, wouldn't they? Raising the professional bar of software testing. I'm not a BCS person. There are other sources of inspiration around the world, but essentially the BCS is a safe harbour for people who are definitely getting started at that level in the career, and for the future. It's a stable and very helpful kind of service to people across the board. I think that's probably as much as I can say. And what I'd like to do now, if it's all right with you, Andrea, to introduce you. But if I stop sharing my screen, can you share yours? And then I'll do a quick intro.
All right.
Are we good?
Yes. Sounds good.
Go for it.
All right. I think you should be able to see my screen now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to catch up with my notes. So I'm introducing Andrea Jensen. She's been a tester since 2011 from Germany. What started as unplanned by chance, she now continues out of passion. A software quality engineer in the maritime industry by day, and a reader, crafter, curious learner, and risk-storming online advocate by night. You can find her on LinkedIn and Twitter and so on. Andrea, I'm going to hand over to you and get my face off the screen. Please welcome Andrea, who is going to talk about ensemble testing, how an experiment shaped the way we work.
All right. Thank you, Paul, for the nice introduction. So, hey, welcome, folks. Who of you are sitting there in London? And then the people who are online, like me. Before I get into more details, I just met someone here. I just give a very brief introduction about myself. Paul already mentioned the most parts of me, which maybe is noted or is remarkable to me as a tester. But just that you have some idea about myself, I enjoy a decent cup of tea. I love reading and traveling, and I'm working in the maritime industry, as Paul already said. If you want to reach out to me, please find me online. Just give me a ping. I'm happy to connect and to chat with you. And yeah, that's it about me. And without any further ado, I want to get started and talk about a story which is near and dear to my heart, which happened a while back ago. And so we need to travel back now in time a bit more than 2 years back into 2020. If you try to recap what happened in 2020 to you, it's already 2 years past. A couple of stuff probably have happened to you. One thing that really stuck with me, and I still have it in my inner vision, I can see the picture at that single moment, was something like this. Some colleagues told me, well, you're the tester in the team. Testing is on your paycheck, not mine. Good luck. That was a hard one to swallow for me, because I'm a believer in the whole team approach and the fun of collaboration and the power of cross-functional diversity. But as I say, I'm a believer. It not necessarily mean that my team is full of believers too. Yeah. So I found myself getting this statement. Maybe you as a tester, as a test lead, as a professional into testing, into IT, have already also received something according the same lines. If that happened to you, you may think about how did it make you feel? Maybe a bit irritated, frustrated, annoyed, disappointed, maybe furious. I personally was going through a bunch of emotions, and I heard statements like this more than once in my career. But 2 years back, I was keen and driven to change it in a way, or I was not sure how to change it, but I know I needed to do something. And so I reached out to the wonderful testing community I can say I'm part of. And very soon I came across very interesting ideas, and people shared their experiences with me, what they would recommend. And I was coming across a concept which is called mob programming. And this here is a famous quote by Woody Sewell, where he said that all the brilliant people are working at the same thing at the same time, in the same space, and on the same computer. In a nutshell, that explained what I was looking for: the way of collaboration, the way of cross-functional diversity, and applying the whole team approach to success and fail at one. But it's still stating mob programming. And I'm a tester by heart and by education, and I didn't want it to change the way how we program. That was not my first intention. However, I was keen on use this concept, this idea, for my own experiment. And so I was coming up with the idea of ensemble testing. I've traded programming for testing, and I just will click this away. And rather than ensemble, I'm trying to use the word, using the word mob, I'm trying to use the word ensemble. But in case mob is more common to you, the both words goes interchangeably. And I added remote to that because we are still in summer 2020, in the middle of a COVID pandemic. We have been under lockdown for a couple of weeks in Germany, and meeting in one room with several colleagues together was not an option at all. So I wanted to start it in a remote context because at that time, everyone was getting up to speed with remote tools. And I also wanted to utilize this momentum. So that was the initial idea of running the experiment. And as every good experiment, I also started with a 5-step plan. And in case you maybe want to try some things yourself, you will find this helpful. I'm just going quickly through the steps. So first of all, I started to looking for an interesting test object, something that would keep the attention and kept my team encouraged during the session. And that was pretty hard because you remember the statement, it's on my paycheck. I'm muting myself. Okay, I hope you can hear me now. If not, please let me know. Okay, so I found an interesting test object and I took some feature which was currently under development. Not many of our teammates have seen that. And people were pretty curious what is going on in that area of our software. I prepared a session myself very thoroughly because I was sure if I would fail on the first attempt, given the culture and the spirit of the team, I would not get a second chance for trying. So I did a tech check, I ran it through with a person I trusted in my team, and after I created myself, was having a little organizer checklist at hand, just in case something would go downhill. And the session itself, I started to create it and frame it as an experiment. I never expected anything to happen, like I will explain later. I just wanted to get the first trial and see how it works for us. If that would be something that could help us to connect, to collaborate, and to help to improve the ownership for quality. At the session itself, we had a kind of a discovery tool. We did an exploratory testing session, and very soon I learned that exploratory testing can way out of the comfort zone of a developer, at least for the developers I'm working with. So I applied techniques like loud thinking, walking them through the very first interaction with the software to ease them up, to get them comfortable with what we were doing there. And there's a useful tip I got a while back: use an appropriate language. Because someone said testing is on your paycheck, I tried to avoid the word testing. In fact, I didn't said anything about that we will have a testing session, and that really helped. However, I'm just saying that it worked for my team, for my experiment. If you want to erase the word testing out of your language, or if you want to don't use another word, please check with your company, with your culture, with your team, if that would work. So, and that's the way how we started our very first Ensemble session. The very first session was my inner core team. We are consisting out of developers and testers, and that went quite well. In fact, it went surprisingly well, because at the end of the session, where we were running our very first remote ensemble testing session, I asked my folks to rate on the happy meter how much they liked the session. And I was absolutely delighted and also absolutely surprised by the fact that they rated it that good. Well, so I got excellent feedback. Our engineering director, by coincidence, was part of the session too. And he initially said, well, we should do this regularly. So I had an instant management buy-in that helped an awful lot. And I just was keen on using this momentum, the good mood, the positive vibes, and wanted to run more of those sessions because I saw the value in it. in our very first session already. We found a couple of bugs, asked a lot of questions, clarified a lot of understanding. And from that, we went into a learning phase where we ran more sessions in a short amount of time. I was planning the next sessions, inviting people. And I don't know how it works in your company, but in mine, news travel very fast. A couple of days later, some colleagues approached me because they heard rumors about that I was doing something like a group testing. And they were a bit curious, what happened, what is going on. And rather than explaining them, I was just simply inviting them to the next session, and some of them already joined. So we were going through a learning phase, and in the next couple of slides, I want to explain to you what learnings we had and how we adapted from a maybe blueprint ensemble testing to an ensemble testing in a way that we can own it, that it fits for the team and it serves our needs. So first of all, we have here the ensemble. The ones of you who are familiar with the concept of pair programming may have already heard the words driver and navigator. In short, the driver is the person who interacts in an ensemble session with the application or whatever needs to be tested. It can also be the mockup, it could be the requirements, it could be an UML diagram. The driver is the person who interacts with the artifact, who controls the mouse, the keyboard. It's so to say the smart input device. While the navigator is the person who has the idea what to do, when to do, and how to do, and would talk the driver through the interaction. I added also the spectators to that because in a remote situation, it's a bit annoying of people talking over each other because we have the background noises, the echoes. So for the moment of the interaction, the driver and the navigator are active while the spectators heading a bit back, watching, observing, and as soon the interaction is over, we will change the roles. Someone else will take over the driver's seat, someone else will take over the navigator's seat from the group. I know some teams are working here with a timer. We don't. It happened to us that it evolved in kind of a natural flow, and after always a couple of minutes of interaction, we naturally hand over to the next person. Or someone asks, well, I might to take a new role. Can I do that? So that's pretty natural and pretty smooth for us, but that needed also a bit of time for us to get into that flow. And when I talk now about the ensemble, I'm talking about a truly diverse team. I said the first ensemble testing experiment was a dev tester team. Nowadays, we are up to 8 different professions mingling together. Our domain experts are joining, our product people are joining. We have our support engineers also included, and even though sometimes a salesperson is joining. The entire ensemble lives under the spirit and the atmosphere of the team is the right one. So whoever is able to join, has the time for it, the spoons for it, is interested in the topic we want to explore, is welcomed, regardless of their tech level, regardless of their knowledge of testing or their general tech savviness. I had colleagues having been a bit shy to join the sessions at first because they didn't felt tech savvy enough to compete with developers, but that's absolutely not the case. It shall be a safe place for learning for everyone. Devs can learn an awful lot about the domain, while maybe a salesperson can learn stuff about some shortcuts in our software, in our application. So it's not about having the knowledge already at hand when joining, but learning on the go. And we are learning in the way of a mission. So whenever we run a session, which is a bit planned ahead, we like to apply the mission statements in the way of a test charter. And here the credit goes to Elizabeth Hendrickson, who was coming up with the super nice, easy to digest framework of a test charter. In the beginning, we didn't apply them because we were coming up with broader topics, or I just said, well, there's a new feature, let's explore that, let's understand what it can do. That was a bit too vague for some of the folks who were not into testing too deep, and they were asking for more specific missions or activities they should do. So now we always have a little bit of a mission sheet. So we have one test charter, so a couple of them already predefined. And in my slides, I'm going to share later with you too, is also an example how a sample charter for us looks like. So to give you a bit more of an idea. And that's where the team, where all the brilliant people are working on the same thing. And we are doing this on the same computer at the same time. And we have the sessions, which started as a planned session, where we invite the team and everyone interested. So we announce it in our company Slack. People who have time, who are interested in the topic, can raise their hands, can show their interest and can join. And they are then mission driven, where we are applying test charters. They are time boxed. But very soon, while we were starting with the planned sessions, I saw a stream, something that developed on its own, and that have been the ad hoc sessions, as I call them, where people just, because they are maybe more familiar with the way of collaborating, of sharing the screen, of getting input from other professions, were gathering to sort out a particular question, a particular problem, and ask colleagues for help. And nowadays, the ad hoc sessions are happening way more in our company. I find myself regularly several times a week in those sessions. They last from maybe 50 minutes to half a day. The groups tend to be a bit smaller because we don't announce it ahead. It's just like in the minute I need maybe a domain expert. I need someone who knows, who can tell me, in my case, how a vessel is built. I need a developer who can tell me about system A, and a developer can tell me about system B to understand the integration. So they are more question driven. We apply them for bugs or for user stories if we want to implement them. So that's the both streams which started to happen then. And we're still working at the same place and on the same computer. But our tech setup is not physically at the same place and on the same computer. But still we can apply this principle which Isul stated. Thanks to technology, thanks to software like Zoom, Google Meets, Teams, whatever you use in your day-to-day life, that's possible now to share your screen, also share the remote access control. We tried various approaches over the last 2 years. So we started with having only a single driver when we are testing our desktop application, because there's a lot depending on configurations that we can't easily hand over. But the single driver has the tendency to get very tedious and a bit annoying, because then you're guided for an hour what to do. Not everyone liked to do that. What else we tried was to hand over remote access control to one of our colleagues' computer. Then you always have the one funny guy in your team who want to format your C drive. That happened to me in every single session. Lately, we tend to have a dedicated computer in our company network we can all access to. That works pretty well. The disadvantage here is that you still need to set it up ahead of the session and make sure that the latest updates are installed. So yeah, it's need to be balanced what setup works best. Just for a comprehensible list, I added headphones and microphones. I think during the last 2 years, we all noticed the importance of good headphones and microphones. And then there was the problem, how do we capture our outcomes of the sessions? Of course, we can run a debrief if our product owner or product manager is not part of the session. But even if we're running a debrief, things might be forgotten or it's hard to reproduce. We tried several things here. We did note taking, which was a bit annoying to the person who needed to do the note keeping. We used a test session-based recorders like the X-Ray Exploratory app, which worked fine, but it also took a lot of time to capture the notes in the session itself. Ultimately, we ended up with recording our sessions, and that's going particularly for the planned sessions, because that really helps us to replay and rewatch in case we need to reproduce a problem. And it is also nice to share this maybe with some management higher ups if they are interested. Why the hell you all spend a couple of hours with your teammates doing all the same thing, if that would be efficient or not. So of course, I just want to say, if you record a session, please check in with your folks who are attending that they are fine with that. So now I was telling a lot what I feel, what we learned, what changed, what we explored. And now I want to give you the chance to listen to the team. As I don't have them here with me today, I captured some snippets over the course of the last 2 years, what they told me about our ensemble testing sessions. And there are people who tell me, well, they learn new stuff about our software. That's super cool. That's basically also the intent of those sessions, to learn new things, to learn and to share what we know. That particular made me happy because I was told this from a colleague who's with the company for 25 plus years. And it's cool if the session I'm running can still train people who are there for so long that they still get new valuable insights of our day-to-day job. Then someday a developer told me, well, you think very different than I. At the first glance, I was not sure if that should be an offense or a compliment, but I just took it as a compliment, as a proof for the diversity of profession and the diversity of minds, and how much we can learn from each other when we ensemble together and understand how the other person view things, approach problems. And a particular comment that really hit me very close at my heart was that a person, that's a colleague who is not in the tech department, but joining regularly nowadays the session, asked in the beginning if she would be, if it would be okay if she would join, because she's not a developer, she's not an IT person, but she was curious. And of course, I invited her because I saw no reason not to let her join. And after a while, after looking a bit in the background, observing what was going on, in one of the sessions, she said, well, in the beginning, at the end, at the feedback session, that she would like to be the driver the next time, because she was feeling now safe and comfortable enough to operate the software. And then in the next session, she operated our software probably for the first time in her life, and she did very well. So that was something which was one of my aha moments, which told me, yeah, there's some reason why I do that, and there's some good cause to do it. Of course, that sounds not all super happy, like a picnic in the park. And in general, it's a really good thing to do. I see a lot of value and benefits in it. But I want to give you a realistic, or maybe also give you the chance to understand that not everyone will embrace this idea, and not everyone will just jump right into and say, well, that's the only, I just waited for this invite. So I also have colleagues who never up to date, even though we are doing this now for more than 2 years, are joining any of our remote ensemble testing sessions. Some tell me, well, I know it's important, it's good, but I have real work to do, I cannot join. Others tell me, yeah, that might be a good reason to do it, but I prefer to work alone because I find collaborating inefficient. And what else I observed was that developers who are part of the ensemble testing session tend to defend their software, because I get it, they don't want to hear the baby is ugly. But then they defend the software when we're finding problems rather to embracing the feedback. So that are stuff I came across. I still trying to find ways to approach those colleagues, to give them friendly, kind reminders, gentle nudges, maybe to join again, give it a chance. However, I just wanted to give you a balanced view on what can happen. And And so that was a bit about the learning phase. And now back to today, to November 2022. What had happened since we started in summer 2020? How does the first experiment change the way we work? How did ensemble testing impacted us as a company, as a team, as a cultural individuals? So what started as a very small group snowballed pretty fast into a more diverse group with different professions, different people joining. It's nowadays a common practice for us. We kind of have a community of practice, people who are early adapters who are really advocating for that. I have now colleagues who are starting their own sessions. We are running ensembles in different combinations, and we only not have this one particular ensemble. Instead, we have always small ensembles which meet for a particular purpose. Some of them happening with me, a lot of them happening without me. And that's super cool to see. In general, I feel we can nail it down to three main areas where it impacted us a lot. Firstly, on the software we built and we deliver to our customers. Secondly, I can see an impact in our culture as a team, as a location with different colleagues and different teams. And thirdly, I see the impact on each of us individuals. So I want to go through that a bit and share you where I see the impacts. So for our software, what we nowadays do, it's like a best practice, or it's something we do on a general course now. When we create bigger new chunks of features or an entire new software module for our portfolio, we always make sure it will run through some rounds of ensemble testing, which includes devs, tester, product people, domain experts, our support team, because they need to support our customers on those questions sooner or later, and also our sales team, because they need to sell it. That also helped a lot to increase our go live confidence, because nowadays we know we increased or incorporated as many views, as many different positions and perspectives as we could before we deliver something. It helps us to create projects entirely collaborative. I still remember a project we did last year. It was a very small group. I was the tester in the team, then we had one developer and one product person. And almost from the beginning till the end, from collaborative story writing to coding, to peer reviewing, to testing, we did almost everything in a group. And also we did our user acceptance testing based on a mock-up before we build anything together with the customer in an ensemble session. And after we delivered the software, we get just excellent feedback for that. We are also using this to evaluate existing parts of our software to see if there's still a business purpose. Our sales members can tell us if this nice feature is ever bought by a customer, or if we develop something nicely, but it has no value at all because no one used it. So it has a lot of impact on our software. It helped us to increase our quality. It also helped us to create another way of ownership for what we are building, because we gain so much more insights from our system. It's more like a holistic view. And that also impacted our culture. So we collaborate now more naturally. So a lot of us feeling very comfortable nowadays in collaborating and sharing their screen and learning stuff together. We value the diversity of opinions, of education, of profession, of professional background. Some important factor for me personally was that I had from the very first session on the buy-in from the management, because his current advocacy from our director really helped, that there was the acceptance to do it. And that also helped to, maybe at least in the early days, to get some people joining the sessions. Personally, to me, something that really I felt super happy about was when I got to know that colleagues are copying my sessions, because that's a great form of approval that what I tried to implement was working and they find it useful. And overall, I had more chats about quality, about software, about testing than I had in my years in the company before. And all of that also, of course, impacts us as an individual. Every session, still today, is always a session of learning for me. Either I learn something about the software, I learn some tech tricks, tips, tools I did not know before, or I learn something about my colleagues, about their views, their opinions, maybe their background. It's always super interesting. Overall, I found alleys and places where I have never thought that I could find an alley for testing and for quality. And that personally helped me particularly, because remember, testing is in your paycheck, not mine. That was not a really nice place to be in. And then finding allies who are supporting quality, who are supporting testing, was really good for me to learn. And for me personally, it also flipped a relationship 180 degrees. I remember I had a complicated relationship with one of my developers in the team. We have not been always getting along on good terms together. And then when we started the first Ensemble sessions, he wanted to join. And he is an eager joiner since then. He is almost never missing a session. In the early days, to be honest, I was not so keen on having him always there. But over time, due to the collaboration, we get to know each other better. We learned more about each other, our interactions, our way of working with people. And that also helped us to shape our understanding of the two of us. And nowadays, we have quite a productive relationship where we can work successfully together. So that's in a nutshell how it impacted us as individuals, as the team in the cultural sense, and how it impacted us in our software. And now it's time to reflect a bit on testing is on your paycheck, not mine. The sentence from the beginning, the statement. So did it help us to share more ownership for the quality, to help us with the collaboration, and also to reconnect while we are spread remotely? In a nutshell, I say yes. I mean, there's still some way to go. I think we will never be at the end of the ultimum. The way is the journey, so to say. But we're on a good way. Good stuff happened since then. And I'm happy that I was brave enough to try this experiment, that I had enough courage just to kick it off and see where it leads me to. And yeah, that's it with my talk today. And the only thing I have now for you is the last slide. So that was my experiment. And what is then yours now? What do you want to change? What do you want to try out? So thank you very much. If you have questions, please let me know.
Thanks very much, Andrea. We've just got Slido off the ground. Again, playing some of these things a little bit by ear. If you can submit questions through Slido, that's a website which is sli.do. What it will do is it'll ask you for a hashtag, and the hashtag is SIGIST 2022. That's SIGIST 2022. Okay, it's pretty easy to use. Just type in your question. You can leave a name or be anonymous. It's up to you. I've got a couple for Andrea already. If I can just go to it. Well, first thing, if I don't know if you can see these things, Andrea. You can if you want, of course.
I can't.
Okay, so Louise says for Andrea, not a question, just wanted to say your slides are beautiful. Anyway,
Thank you very much.
Well, there you go. I couldn't resist saying that. So I got a question from, I think, Nathan. How often do you do the ensemble sessions? And are they at one point of the SDLC, the life cycle? How does it fit with the bigger project or program or sprint, or how does it fit?
Mm-hmm. All right. So for the ad hoc sessions, as I said, I do them a couple of times in a week. I don't put them in my record, so I can't put any numbers in that. But that's something we do regularly. And I also realized that my colleagues are doing this regularly without me for their own projects, for their own parts. The bigger ones, the planned sessions where we go through entire new features, they are for sure part of our SDLC. So we make sure that we at least run once or twice through them before we deliver anything to our customer. That particular project I mentioned, we did based on a mock-up, we did a run through the entire flow before we started any coding at all. Firstly ourselves, and then together with the customer. Then we code it, then we run again through that, then we do the finishing off. So we incorporated it quite naturally into our flows. Hope that answered the question, Nathan. If you have more questions or you want to know more specifics, let me know.
Yeah, please keep them coming through. I've actually got another one from Nathan, who figured out how to use Slido first. Andrea, how large a group do you go up to? If the group is larger, we split into breakout rooms of 3 to 4 people and feedback from the different groups at the end. Does that make sense?
Yep. I mean, I did my smallest groups usually, or the smaller one, are like 3 to 4. I personally find the sweet spot is something in between 3 to 6. Sometimes when we have the big plan session and the feature catch a lot of interest, then we could run up to 13, which is a bit too much for my personal taste. We didn't try the breakout rooms yet, but that's also a great idea to do. What we then do, we always have, usually there's some people in the ninja mode lurking a bit in the background and just observing. I'm always trying to incorporate them, but I would say up to 7, 8, it's getting a bit tricky. And then splitting up the teams is a good option to do so.
Thank you. Okay. If you want to do a follow-up question, please just post it onto Slido. I've got one from Gurpreet in chat. Gurpreet says, delivery product on the time is the need of business. Is it not affecting timeline, budget? Delivery product on the time is the need of business. It's not affecting timeline, budget. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think for us, it's almost the opposite. It really helps us to get to, especially if we do that in the early stage and include our domain experts, our product people into the testing, we just get very soon very good valuable feedback if that problem is already solved or if you just create new problems for our customers. So that just helps us to deliver the right product. Of course, if you just do it at the very end, like if you start doing the testing at the very end of everything shortly before delivered, it's clearly too late and can jeopardize the product, the timeline, whatever.
Okay, thank you. Next, what we got? So from Paul, not me, great stuff, exclamation mark, there you go. What did you do to keep the ensemble on track and ensure that everyone in it was heard?
Okay, in the beginning, I was I was personally a bit stressed, to be honest, because I wasn't sure if it was a success or not. So I had a little list of the names and I was ticking them off and like making little strokes if one had a chance to be the navigator. So to see if it would be balanced, and then asking people who had lesser strokes than the others if they wanted to share something. Nowadays, I'm more used to that. I'm a bit more relaxed. And I got a feeling of the people who actively engage by natural or by their nature, who maybe needs a bit like a little friendly nudge or just an invite. And then I just ask them, in case I feel it's going absolutely off track. We always have a kind of a little guidelines. I also like to send out earlier to them to ask them to be mindful, to be respectful, let other people take also their shared time, and then I maybe just intervening a bit and asking them to be polite and let the other people also interact with the ensemble. So far that worked out well out. I never needed to kick someone out of their room so far.
The question of my own, I mean, how do people react to this way of working? Now, some people like to work individually, some people love working in teams, some people like to share their ideas, some people are a bit more introspective and introverted. I mean, what's the social side of this? I mean, is it easy to get working in that way, or are some people more difficult to get involved than others? What do you think?
I mean, certainly. Personally, I also consider myself as an introvert who loves to chat, but always needs also some quiet time. So I can also, I would never do that 8 hours a day. But yeah, we also have team members which say they prefer to work alone. They prefer to work individually. I don't force them to join. That's not my idea or not my way of getting people convinced. Sometimes a friendly nudge helps. Sometimes also the FOMO feeling, the fear of missing out, helps to join, just to see what other people are doing. And sometimes, as I said in the beginning, if you say the word and the word, you feel that the word is the problem, which just is then the pink elephant in the room, and the people are like, oh no, if it's that, I'm not joining. Maybe not use the word. I had a recent occurrence where someone told me, well, I really don't like to pair up and I don't want to join the ensemble. Well, that's fine. I didn't push the person. Then there was another occasion where we needed to do something together. And by the way, we were then ensemble testing and it was working very fine. So sometimes you just need to give it a chance and see if you have a good experience and a positive experience. I think people are then more keen on joining again, rather if you push people in.
Yeah, cool. I'm just looking at Slido again. Okay, I think that's the end of what we've got in there. Any more questions for any more questions for Andrea? Please get them on Slido. I am taking them on chat as well if you can't get Slido working for yourself. Any more? Is there anything else you want to say, Andrea? I mean, things that, I mean, I find when I do talks that, damn, I should have said this and I forgot something. Is there anything that you forgot to say? How about that?
I mean, I did not really forgot something to say about my slides, but I forgot to go to my last slide. I just wanted to share this with you. There's a little bit of a freebie because I mentioned my organizer checklist. I made them available on the internet. So in case you want to try it out and you would like to have a little cheat list, take it, check it out. Feel free to share it among the community with your testing friends. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Excellent. That looks really good. I think we're done, if that's all right. And it's 9:57. We're doing okay on time. So thank you, Andrea. Thank you so much, and for dialing in from Germany and wherever you are.
Yeah, thank you for listening to my talk today. As I said, if you want to chat, want to reach out to me, ping me. I'm hanging around a little bit longer today here also in Zoom, so just ping me. Thank you very much, and all have a good day.
Thank you very much, and you too.